Let's begin. Next slide, please. Thank you all for joining us today. I'd like to take a moment to introduce ourselves to those of you who may not know us well as reconnect with those that we've worked with before. My name is Lauren Perkins, and I am the program director overseeing our youth development portfolio of grants. Many of you may have previously worked with my wonderful colleague, Robin Moline, who recently retired in November. I'm also joined by my colleague, Laura Rossi, Vice President at the Trust, who leads our Westchester office. We are part of the New York Community Trust in Westchester. Many of you know that until June of 2024, our team was known as the Westchester Community Foundation. While our name has changed, our mission remains the same. We have always been a division of the New York Community Trust, which serves as the community foundation for New York's 8 downstate counties, which consists of the 5 boroughs of New York City, Westchester, and Nassau and Suffolk counties on Long Island. For our information this afternoon, I will provide some background on this request for proposals focused on youth civic engagement in Westchester. In my remarks, I'll also address some of the questions that came in during registration. Thank you to those who submitted questions. Kindly save any additional questions for the end of my remarks when we will have time to address them. So without further ado, next slide, please. Our work at the Trust focuses on building healthy, equitable, and thriving communities for all. One of the key ways that we address local needs and challenges is through our competitive grant-making program. This program is made possible thanks to the generosity of donors who have established permanent funds with us, leaving a lasting philanthropic legacy. Our youth development program is one of our largest of the competitive grant-making programs. Thanks to generous donors with a vision and passion for supporting young people, we are able to fund programs and create meaningful opportunities for youth to grow, thrive, and become resilient, successful adults. Next slide, please. In recent years, our youth development grants have supported projects that help young people develop social, emotional, personal, and practical skills such as self-advocacy, conflict resolution, communication, peer mentoring, goal setting, and teamwork to build resilience and thrive throughout life. Improve outcomes for youth before and after contact with the juvenile or criminal justice system, and create opportunities for youth to amplify their voice on issues that affect their lives and meaningfully engage in their local communities. Increasingly, we are seeing that our funded projects and new proposals touch on the theme of this third bullet, where youth are change agents in their communities. Moving forward, this is the direction we are taking and where all of our youth development grant making will be done in 2025. Next slide, please. In 2025, we are building on our existing work by focusing our youth development grant making specifically on civic engagement initiative. We are seeing that young people are stepping up to address issues that they deeply care about, often starting at the local level. This is especially important in a time when our society appears increasingly polarized. Civic engagement activities foster connection, dialogue, and mutual respect, creating pathways for individuals to work together despite their differences in building stronger, more cohesive, and more equitable communities. Recent policy changes are also encouraging these efforts and are creating new opportunities for youth to become engaged. Notably, New York State statutes enacted in 2023 and 2024 promote civic engagement by encouraging voter registration and pre-registration in schools, expanding access to student government programs for all youth, and requiring school boards to include an ex officio student member. Participation in civic activities helps young people build emotional resilience, self-awareness, and a sense of agency, core elements of our youth development grant-making strategy. Research also shows that youth who participate in civic activities are more likely to experience improved mental health, achieve higher educational outcomes, and attain greater financial stability in adulthood, and also remain civically engaged throughout their lives. Young people in Westchester are no exception to this. Whether they are passionate about climate change, community safety, gender equity, or other pressing issues, they represent the voters and leaders of the future. Our goal through this RFP is to support young people in Westchester by helping them build awareness, skills, and confidence that they need to exercise their agency, drive change, and ensure that their voices are heard. Next slide, please. For this RFP, we are focusing on youth civic engagement and projects that inspire, equip, and mobilize young people up to age 24 in Westchester to actively participate in civic life. For this RFP, we are defining civic engagement as the activities where the primary goal is to address the root causes of social or community issues and work towards systemic change. So, what kinds of projects are eligible for this RFP? These are the types of civic engagement projects that we have in mind based on our definition of civic engagement for this RFP. This list on the screen is also listed in the RFP. We encourage you to take a close look. This list of eligible projects is not meant to be exhaustive. We encourage applicants to propose innovative ideas that align within the parameters of the RFP and reflect what is happening in the field. It's important to emphasize that we have no preference for one type of project over another. Whether it's an example from this list or a different eligible project, we are equally interested in all proposals that respond effectively to the RFP. Next slide, please. In our review of submitted proposals, priority will be given to projects that meet the following criteria. Projects that have clear activities that are well designed to achieve the stated project goals during the grant period. Projects that have a design that is informed by the youth that it serves. We are really looking at whether the youth voice is at the center of the program activity and how. We are going to be reading for how youth are empowered rather than being passive receptors of information. Projects that have opportunities for youth to drive change in policies or systems that impact their communities and their future. And projects that identify a specific community issue that you plan to address and how that issue affects the community that your work serves. If a project will not address a specific issue initially, the proposal should describe how the project will engage young people in a process of identifying the issues that they care about and that the project will address. There were a few questions submitted during registration about whether only new initiatives are eligible for funding, or whether we will consider supporting pre-existing initiatives programs as well. To answer this question, we will consider both new and pre-existing programs eligible. If you are applying for support of a pre-existing program, we will want to know specifically in your proposal how grant funds will have value. For instance, grant dollars may be needed to expand your pre-existing program, or perhaps you've gained some traction, but you've lost funding. In other words, we want to know where you are with your pre-existing program and how these grant dollars will help you get to where you want to be. Next slide, please. A few notes on what we will not fund through this RFP. Community service projects primarily aim to provide direct support to individuals or communities and do not fit with how we are defining civic engagement for this RFP. This would include projects such as tutoring students, volunteering, or cleaning up public spaces. While we believe that these projects are valuable in their own right, for this RFP, we are particularly interested in civic engagement initiatives where the primary goal is to influence decision-making, foster democratic participation, and address the underlying causes of challenges. We will not fund partisan initiatives. All projects must be nonpartisan. As with any grant made by the New York Community Trust, we will not make grants to individuals or to capital and building campaigns, endowments, deficit financing, equipment, or religious purposes. And finally, renewal grant requests. Applicants should not use this RFP to request a renewal of a current grant from the trust. All proposed projects must be in response to the specific parameters of this RFP. Next slide, please. How to apply. All proposals should be submitted through the New York Community Trust Grant Seeker portal. Proposals are due by 5 p.m. on Friday, February 14th. For this RFP, please use the apply link shown here on the screenshot on the slide. When you visit the Grant Seeker portal, and this link is available in the RFP, you'll need to scroll down to find this heading, Additional Requests for Proposals. Please use the link for the Westchester Youth Civic Engagement RFP under this Additional Request for Proposals heading, not the link for Westchester's ongoing competitive grants program that you may see at the top of the page. The portal will require applicants to create a cover sheet with some background about your organization and the grant request. As described in the RFP, you'll also upload one document that includes a proposal narrative, project budget, the organization's operating budget, and your board of directors list. There's much more information and detail on this on the RFP. A thoughtful question was raised regarding eligible expenses in the budget, specifically whether student incentives would be an eligible grant expense. And the answer to that is it really depends. The program budget can include expenses such as food for meetings and youth events. Additionally, modest stipends for youth participants are allowable, recognizing that much of this work will take place outside regular school hours. However, it's essential to us that youth participation is genuinely driven by engagement with the project rather solely than by the incentives. We will notify all applicants in June as to whether a proposal will be awarded or declined. Next slide, please. Within this RFP program, we will award grants of up to $100,000 each for a maximum term of 24 months with an annual funding amount not to exceed $50,000. Proposals may indeed be less than 2 years. Please note that grant requests should be appropriately scaled to the size of the program and the organization. For instance, please don't request $100,000 if that amount represents the majority of your organization's operating budget. The number of grants we will award will depend on the number of proposals we receive, but we anticipate selecting between 4 and 10 recipients, depending on the amounts requested for quality projects. To be eligible, nonprofit applicants must be incorporated by the IRS as tax-exempt 501c3 organizations or have a 501c3 fiscal sponsor. Municipal and county government entities are welcome to apply. This includes schools, public school districts, youth bureaus, youth councils. These entities are welcome to apply. Projects must be nonpartisan, and they must serve youth up to age 24 who reside in Westchester. Please note that current grantees of the New York Community Trust are eligible to apply, so long as the proposed project is different than what is currently being funded. Organizations based outside of Westchester are also welcome to apply, but please note that grant funds must be used for Westchester youth only. Next slide, please. Following this information session, should you have any additional questions at all, please feel free to contact me via email at lperkins@thenytrust.org. Next slide, please. And now we will have time for some questions. Please, we ask that you please type any additional questions you have into the chat, and we will do our best to answer them. And we ask that you please kindly remain on mute throughout our Q&A. There's a question here about if we will send out the PowerPoint. We will be recording this session, and we will be happy to circulate this recording as well as the PowerPoint upon request. We will be posting the information session on our website, and we can also send you that link. There's a question here. If our organization has more than one appropriate project or program, can we send in 2 proposals for consideration? We ask organizations to submit 1 proposal for consideration. There's another question in the chat. Is this grant cash advance or reimbursable? These are not reimbursable grants, they're cash advance grants. There is a question here. Can funding be used for travel, hotel, etc.? Thinking about a youth and government program that culminates in a trip to Albany to present to legislators. The answer is yes. We will cover costs of travel for that purpose. There's a question here about what the reporting requirements are. In general, we have an annual report that is due to us in writing that provides an opportunity for grantees to share progress made against the expected grant outcomes and provide an accounting of how the funding was spent in fidelity to what was submitted in the approved grant budget. And I would welcome my colleague Laura Rossi to chime in if there's anything else that you'd like to add on any of these questions. There's a question here about thoughts about number of youth engaged, depth versus breadth. I think that will depend on the context of the program that's being proposed. So it's hard to sort of answer that without further context, but we're happy to take a look. And if you have further, more specific questions about what you have in mind, you should feel free to reach out to me directly. There's a good question here. Can a youth bureau, which is not a 501c3, apply for the grant? If the youth bureau is considered a municipal or county entity, you would be eligible to apply for the grant. If there's another organization without 501c3 status, so long as you identify a 501c3 fiscal sponsor, you would be eligible to apply as well. Happy to answer any more detailed questions offline.
I might also add that we understand that when we make grants to a municipality, that there may be municipal procedures that you'll have to follow in terms of town, or village board acceptance of the grants. We're familiar with that and can work with you should the grant be awarded on the process end.
There's a good question here about subcontracting. Laura, do you have thoughts on that?
We're happy to take a look at that. I mean, it's really how you build your budget and taking a look at, how those dollars are spent and what it means to subcontract out a portion of the grant for a specific part of the project or program. But it doesn't exclude subcontracting, but again, it will take a look at, what your program design is.
If anyone would like to follow up if any additional questions arise as you prepare your proposals, please don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to provide any more information that would be helpful. Great. I think that's a wrap. It doesn't look like there are any more questions. If there are, please reach out. We so appreciate your participation in our session this afternoon. Thank you so much for your interest in this RFP. We're really excited about the energy around it and look forward to being in touch. This information session will be posted online. If you'd like the PowerPoint, please reach out to me. Thank you so much.